Okay, so let's get started. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. We know your time is super valuable, so we're going to jump right into it. As always, please post your comments and questions in the chat. We're getting that figured out to make sure that the chat is working. And if you have a question and it's not working for you, we'll just get that question at the end, and we'll cover Q&A until we finish up. So let's get started, and we will be talking about experience-driven product design. So we're super excited to cover what we've learned. We both have 10 years of combined experience in the experience economy, and we're really excited to introduce ourselves. If you aren't familiar with us, we started Rise, and our North Star is to help tour and attraction companies work on their business instead of in their business. And streamline their processes so basically they can scale themselves out of the business, have enough revenue and time in their lives to spend with their family or continuing to grow other businesses. So my name's Spencer Finch. I originally founded Mad Moose Rentals and Tours in Southern Utah, and I specialize in sales, marketing, innovation, and then just product design in general. And I've been able to scale Mad Moose together with Shelby to where I'm now in a founder role and decided to focus now on Rise.
Yeah, so hi everyone, my name is Shelby Hutchings, and over the past few years, I've been able to help businesses with their SOPs and structure their organization, including Mad Moves, right? So, which allows businesses, like Spencer mentioned, business owners to work on their business, not so much in the business. I specialize in implementation and organization, and have helped many business owners as they grow to learn how to adapt and delegate tasks within their organization as well.
So quick thank you to Tourpreneur. We just became an official corporate partner with them. We're really excited because that'll allow us to help more and more tour and attraction companies and work with a lot of you as well. So we look forward to seeing and hearing from a lot of you in the future. So let's talk experiences. Let's get into it. We compiled a list of everything that is needed to develop and sell an experience-driven product. The backstory on this is we went through a bunch of OTAs. We went through Magpie. We went through ResTech platforms. And we want to get clear on the fact that organically first, you want to build an item out with the information necessary to sell and then scale that item. So as a business, you want to attract multiple customer types, right? And it might be one product that's catered a little bit differently for multiple sales channels, ultimately funneling a lot of revenue to your business. And then you can dial in those sales channels as well and optimize.
Yeah, so today we will be using Mad Moose Rentals and Tours as a case study and how we have developed Mad Moose's experience-driven products in Southern Utah. We'll specifically be talking about the Sand Mountain Dune Tour, which was built within Fair Harbor. We love Fair Harbor. We've been able to use their platform to leverage our products and help a few of our other clients scale their products as well. Again, we're talking really high level here, right? So we're going to be covering a lot of things within, 30 to 40 minutes. So just make sure that you are thinking of your business and how this is applicable to you. And ask yourself, if you had all these sections, well thought out and implemented, what would that look like and what would it take to get you there?
Awesome. Okay. So we're going to move pretty quickly through these. So in the first case example is, as an owner of a tour and attraction company, you think, why should I care, right? And for us, using Mad Moose as a case study, our whole purpose at Mad Moose is to create unforgettable experiences, right? And we make that really clear in the design phase of our products. And it's really cool when you get a clear picture of the design, because then you see the result happening. So if you look at all these reviews, we just searched the word unforgettable, and you can see like people are starting to post that word. And it's fun to see how like guests come to the end of their experience and say, hey, I'm never going to forget this. This is an unforgettable experience for me. And they post that word, and it just kind of like sums up all the work. So it gets super rewarding when you go through this process.
Yeah, so it's super important to understand who your customer is. And so make sure you're taking the time to do a deep dive and identify who they are, and ask questions to better understand what their preferences and expectations are. And if you don't quite know who it is, you can start by selling multiple types of offerings and then just go with the one that gets the most traction, right? And at that point, you can adapt and change from there. As you can see here with like private tours, this is more for like discerning travelers, those who are wanting an unforgettable experience, a premium experience, making sure that you have the knowledgeable guides, and then it's a once in a lifetime opportunity for them.
So in the beginning of starting Mad Moose in general, we started with just rentals, right? And in the beginning, our whole brand was Mad Moose Rentals, and that's all we did. And now you can see that we've grown our product mix to align with a lot of different customer types. Today, obviously, we're focusing on private tours because that's been, 50% of the business. That once we added it on, it added a bunch of revenue. So look at this list and see if there's anything that you can work on or develop, whether you're doing walking tours, food tours, bike rentals. There's a lot you can do with one specific product, right? If we dialed our products down to something simple, like we have in this case example, UTVs and ATVs. And we've been able to build a lot of different product designs based off of just our fleet of UTVs because they attract a lot of different customers. So when you're building this, you've got to focus on what you are going to sell, and almost equally important is what you're not going to sell. So we don't do paddle boards, bikes, RVs, and a lot of other things because we want to focus and grow our core product and get very, very, very good at selling that product and scaling that product in our area. So continue to build this list. And I think the biggest lesson was to implement slowly so you can master the product, and then you can scale to distribution and sell a lot of it, right? So that's part of what we're going to focus on here is really identify your product mix. And then after you get the product mix, look at your customer journey. And we get a lot of questions about different softwares we use. So we put those up here. We obviously use FareHarbor for the ResTech booking software. We've used Popple for our guides to automate that. We have Podium. Fleetio is our fleet management software, and Linktree we use on our socials. And you might have seen this in Tourpreneur, but there's the customer journey, right? From the dreaming phase all the way to the sharing phase. And you want to optimize every customer and visit so you can generate the most revenue out of it. So developing these and buying into these softwares, it's definitely been worth it for a lot of the businesses we work with because you're going to get more reviews, you're going to get more referrals, and overall more revenue into the business by automating this.
All right, so what we're looking at here is our booking flow within Mad Moose with using FareHarbor. So a booking flow is what your customer is going to see when they click on like view availability or your book now button. You want to make sure that the customer can easily identify with one of your products. So definitely invite you to take a look at your booking flow and make sure that you have really good images in there and that it really speaks to a specific customer. Remember that most of the time, travelers are using their phones, right? So we want to make sure that it is mobile friendly and that they can easily book as they're traveling and just, yeah, right there from their phones. And again, we want to remember that we're meeting our customer where they're at, right? So just keep that in mind as well as we're going through these slides for building these items.
Yeah, and it really helped using the item layout to then build the website structure following the same layout. Because it allows customers to quickly identify with who they are, right? Like if they go to this booking flow and they want to do a rental, then they're going to see the best machines at the best price guaranteed because that's what they care about, right? And then on the guided private tours, you see a private luxury adventure for you and your family. That's what that customer type cares about. So it really quickly gives them, in a split second, like, oh, that's me. I'm going to look into the private tours in this case study example, right? And then once they get into private tours, they're going to select the tour that matches whether they're like a family or they're looking for adventure or something like that. So really dive into that flow and think as your customer, and then that'll lead to more conversions because they're actually able to find the product. And then when it comes to distribution, you want to A/B test a lot of titles. So you'll see here, like, here's Get Your Guide. here's Viator, here's Airbnb. You can use different titles for the same product. The titles need to work for the OTA and their customer types. So it's important to have your set title, what your organic title is going to be. And then don't be afraid to like create spin-offs in other OTA platforms to showcase almost a different product that once they arrive, it's actually the same tour. Here's another piece that we designed that I think a lot of people miss that helps sell a lot of our tours is they actually care about you and your story and like the brand as a whole, right? So you're going to start seeing this, and we saw this when we listed an Airbnb, was they want to know what makes you uniquely qualified to provide the experience. And I think it comes down to that emotion factor, right? They want to know your story and they want to hear like that journey so that they can emotionally relate. And they're thinking to themselves, right, why should I believe you? Why come visit your tour? This allows you to answer that question and convince them to then book with you.
Yeah, so you'll notice that we are giving you the recipe for everything that needs to be designed, thought out, and included when developing a new product. Each piece of this presentation is important as you move from the design stage to actually like selling the product. And we want to make sure that we are keeping things consistent across all sales channels. So it might seem kind of like a lot of information, and maybe some is applicable to like the ResTech software that you use, but really we're giving you all of the pieces that are needed if you're using, OTAs or through your ResTech software. And then the overview here is for the people that need a little bit more information so that they can make a decision.
So when it comes to highlights within your product, so you have your overview that you list, and that's a quick description. You also want to like have highlights that specifically show almost like what you're going to check off on the guest's bucket list, right? Like every guest, especially this year with limited income, they want to get the biggest deal for what they spend. So the more you can package into your tour and have like a perceived value increase, then you're going to be able to justify a higher price, differentiate yourself from other activities in the area, and offer something better. So those highlights, you want to have clear listings on what they're going to accomplish. And specifically with tours, right? The more they feel like they got done, the more you can charge. And if you include spots that they already were planning to visit, like for us, Top of the World or Sand Mountain, if that's included in what their tour is going to be with you anyways, then they're knocking out their goals for the visit to your area. So look at what they're already trying to visit and try and package that as added value into the tour. And like Shelby said, I know this is a lot because we're going through it pretty quickly. And, each one of these slides could probably be its own webinar. But really our whole goal with this was to give you a checklist of what you can include in the items that you're building to grow at scale. Because the way the market's moving is relevant content is going to be king, right? There's going to be so much content on the internet, and with AI and Google changing how the summaries come up, you're going to want to be the king of content in your area. And a lot of that has to do with leveraging points of interest that already exist in your area. So for example, this point of interest, Top of the World, is one that's out on the mountain that we visit, but you'll see it's listed as a tourist attraction, right? If you go to Google and click things to do as a tourist, it's going to pop up a whole list of tourist attractions. So we combine these tourist attractions in our tours, and it's even better because the only way to get to this spot is by using one of our tours or vehicles. And we go to the attraction and we're just all over it, right? We're putting in reviews, descriptions, photos of our machines, and it creates a lot of direct traffic. A lot of people don't know, but you can create your own tourist attractions. So if you're going on a tour and you're like, hey, this spot's really cool, but it's not on Google, like you can add that onto Google and you start getting tens of thousands of views just because it's in this list where vacationers already are. It's a things to do. So you classify it as a tourist attraction. And we've developed some that within a year get, 150, 200,000 views plus, and it's all organic and no paid advertising. So yeah, Bria's showing one that she's got 350,000 views on. So she's killing it over there. But yeah, look for tourist attractions that already exist, leverage the ones that exist. And if it's not there and you want to add it, we can show you how to add that to Google and get organic traffic.
Yeah, those are super cool. Like we have a ton that we've put out all over the mountain, right? And just people will book from there. They see that Mad Moose is mentioned in the Q&A or in a review or whatever, and we've gotten quite a few bookings from that. So definitely something to get on for sure. So now that our customers, or sorry, now our customers need to know what to do in order to optimize their experience, right? So we want to make sure that we're automating it so that we're taking away any barriers that might deter them from booking with you. And for us, check-in details, what to bring, special requirements, restrictions, extras, disclaimers, what's your cancellation policy, and then the FAQs. So really make sure that you have these dialed for your business. Take the time to, answer all of these things and clearly have them laid out. As for additional requirements, are there any specific things that they need to bring in order to qualify for your service? So whether it be a driver's license, is there age requirements? Do you have a damage deposit? And then be transparent about these things beforehand, right? And frame them as added value rather than have to. So instead of like, yeah, like we do have a damage deposit, you can frame it as, yeah, we have a damage deposit, which allows you to only pay up to X amount, right? Or, yeah, we do require that you have to wear a helmet, or whether it's, you're on a canoe or a jet ski, you have to wear a life vest, but you get to do that so that you can be safe, right? So always try and frame it in the positive. Like you don't have to do anything, like you get to do these things, right?
Yeah, and we always say pitch it as a value add because that's going to build the value rather than like requirement is a pretty harsh word sometimes, right? So show them the value, and maybe the value is we value safety, right? Or we prioritize your experience, that you continue on your vacation and it doesn't get ruined by like a broken arm or something. So it's really important to get all of these pieces of information together, because when you go to scale your item and use other sales channels, these are going to be required fills that you're going to need to fill out, right? And a lot of res techs are starting to expand those fields as well. Okay, calendar. So availabilities are super important, right? There's a lot of variables when it comes to the tour and attractions industry. It might be a really hot year, like this year. Like in St. George, it's 116 every single day for the past like forever, 30 days. So building out your availabilities to match where the flow happens, you basically want to build your availabilities to be capable of every single year being able to support weather changes or being able to support time changes. So you'll notice here on our product calendar that there's earlier time slots that maybe we don't necessarily schedule our staff, because it would cost us an enormous amount to schedule, 14 hours a day. But if they want to go earlier and it's really, really hot, they can schedule, they can call, they can book, and we adapt to what they're looking for. So you'll notice also like there's some that they can book right away, some that they can book beforehand. And if you're using Fair Harbor, there's availability schedules and you can set those, and it makes it really easy to basically build out your availabilities for the following years. I think one of the biggest mistakes we see with tour and attraction companies, especially if they're seasonal, right? Like snowmobile companies, or maybe there's a short season you have, is they don't have the availabilities built for like 2 years down the road or a year down the road. Especially if you're a destination area where people return to it every year, you've got to have those bookings available well in advance so that they can fill in those time slots. And you can take deposits, you can have them book full price, whatever you want to require. But availabilities are super important. Like we've got to have those expanded out. And then tied to the availabilities, the resources need to be dialed. If you've looked in the market recently, like people are booking in a shorter time window. I think they're booking well in advance too, but we're seeing a big increase in the short window bookings, especially for tours. So with this specific case example, because we have our resources built out, including the guides availability, they're able to book a tour within 2 hours of that tour going out. And the goal is to shrink that time as much as possible. If they were booking a rental, we only require 30 minutes notice and they're out. Like I've had personal experience of going to cities where we land in the plane and we want to do a food tour and they only have one option and it's a half hour past when we're at the airport. Like if they had 2 or 3 more options, we would have joined the tour and given them our money, but they only had one option in the evening. And you can test this beforehand, right? Like you can put multiple time slots and see how many book in each time slot. And if it requires more guides, once they book and you have their money, like figure out how to fulfill the booking. And depending on like the size of your business and where you're at, it makes sense to slowly scale that up. But yeah, you want to meet customers where they're at and give them the ability to book within a short window. The other really important thing that's going to be happening is content. To be able to build high quality video and images, it does require some time and some investment. And this is probably one of the big leverage tools that we use scaling up was hiring somebody full time for a season and giving them more of like a salary based available job, right? And it was for a season and they know that and you know that. And it worked a lot better than hiring a photographer and having them come for 3 days and then trying to make content out of it. Because if you hire them for the whole season, then you're able to say, this is a really good day. Let's go out. Let's capture content. You almost get overbuilt on the content side. And there's just so much value in that. Like for 30 to 50 grand to have somebody come and work for you for a season to develop content, especially when next year content's probably the leading differentiator in tour and attraction industry businesses. Like we've got to get our content dialed, and we've seen that proven time and time again. If you can put yourself into that content and feel the emotion, the conversions are well worth that initial investment, and it differentiates yourself from everyone else because it's all stuff that you've developed. So
Yep. Pricing. So there are a few different ways to calculate your pricing, right? So there's cost-based pricing. You definitely need to know what your hard costs are. This will also help to empower your team to close the deal if they know the minimum amount for each of your products, right? And then it will also allow for commission if they're able to get the full pop for the booking, right? There's also competitive analysis, which is what we've seen most tour and attraction companies base their price on, right? Like what's the market already getting for that specific product or tour or whatever your offering is. And then there's value-based. How can you raise your price based on the perceived value? So our adventure rentals, I don't know if you guys saw in our booking flow, we have like adventure rentals and self-guided experiences. To us, like they're one and the same, like they're taking a machine out, going out on the mountain. But we're able to structure those a little bit differently and have different pricing for those 2 different items, even though to us they're the same thing, right? And then there's also OTA pricing. So make sure that you're leaving enough room for you to have a fair margin. And then dynamic pricing, so adjusting your pricing based on demand. So some of you might have different pricing based on like busy weekends, you know, there's weekday pricing versus the weekend pricing, or if there's holidays, or if you have different seasons as well, right? So just making sure that we definitely know our costs. That's really the biggest thing, because
yeah,
you want to make money.
exactly. Well, and to James's point, like his question here with memberships, with Fair Harbor, we've definitely leveraged that tool because you can build in memberships and have monthly subscriptions set out or annual subscriptions. The thing that's lacking right now, and I agree with this too, James, is like there's not really like a method to take that payment every month. And there's a couple of softwares that we use in conjunction with Fair Harbor to make that happen. We've used Go High Level and then a company called Recur to actually get the recurring payments going. So those are happening outside Fair Harbor, but the membership platform is within Fair Harbor. So get creative with pricing, because in order to maximize revenue, for us, if the machine's sitting there, it's not making money in this case example, right? So we have a lot of locals that want to come ride, but they're not necessarily going to pay the premium that a tourist is going to pay. So we have them come and ride in different seasons and they pay a monthly price, but they're able to redeem that through Fair Harbor and then through a couple other companies. So Go High Level is a good one. and then also a company called Recur. Okay, we're gonna pick up the pace. We got a lot more to cover.
Okay, so let's talk about reviews. So the biggest thing is we want to make sure that we are automating these, right? So reviews are a big deal. Ask yourself, like, when are you sending those automated messages? Are they via text? Are they through email? For us, we recognize that sending a text 2 hours after their adventure ends has done really well for us. And then if they have not yet done a review 2 days after their adventure, then we'll send another one. We've also done campaigns in the past where we'll send a message to everyone who like hadn't left a review in the last year, and then we also will send them like a promo code to book again. And so that's helped us get quite a few reviews. You also want to find reviews, like go into your reviews and see what the specific, like what they're mentioning on specific products, right? And then you can then use those as you're building out these specific items and mention those reviews as you build it.
Yeah, so like in this case, you've got Sand Mountain right here. So if you search our reviews for Sand Mountain, you can use all of these reviews that say Sand Mountain on your product landing page. And then it makes the reviews a lot more relevant because they're on the specific page for the specific activity. Another really cool one that we recently started doing, Travefy is a great company for this, is building out an itinerary for your activity. So not only highlighting your specific experience, but we've built out a lot of partner relationships, affiliates, have different resellers. So listing them on a full itinerary over a multiple period, whether it's 3 days or 7 days, it really helps you become a resource and they see you as like the thing to do and the information hub. So you're able to get them that itinerary, give them ideas of what else to do on their trip, and then have that itinerary have the main focus of your activity as like the highlight. Especially if you've built a really good product, it will feel and seem like the best thing that they've done on their trip, right? Because you're way ahead of everyone else. Duration is also important. So depending on the item type, people are looking for short duration, long duration. If we only offered one duration of tours, we wouldn't be able to have a higher price than a lower price, right? We charge more for our 4 hours than our 2 hours. And sometimes they perceive the 4 hours as a certain price. And then because that's that price, they'll book the 3 hour, right? So we really like the segment of 3 and being able to play around within like the half a day scenario. So that way we get multiple opportunities to sell them, whether it's the morning or the afternoon time slots, or maybe they want to go in the middle of the day, but allows us to use the resource twice within a day and increase revenue over that specific time period. And then it gives them the option, let's say they went 2 hours, the guide can upsell them on a 3 hour opportunity. We've had that happen a lot on our tours where they're out for 2 hours, they're having fun. It's like, guess what? We can just extend to 3 hours right now because our resources are dialed and we know it's still available. And they'll upsell them and pay the difference while they're on the tour. So really look to get as much value out of each experience as possible, and playing around with durations is one way how. Locations, these are very, very important to highlight. We use Linktree to always show our locations. Updating Google Maps, Apple Maps, OTAs, Fair Harbor, their confirmation emails. Like they just need your address. They need to be able to show up to the right place. We're in the middle of the desert, so this could be more of a problem for us than others, but really have those pins in the right spot with the correct address, and then make it very visible for them in their customer journey on how to get to you. One other thing is taking a look at the market as a whole and cancellation policy. You'll start to notice, here's again, Viator, Airbnb, and Get Your Guide. Look at what the market's offering and really try to get to a point where you can match that, right? We may not originally have had free cancellations up to 24 hours before the start time. And you guys have seen this in Facebook groups. A lot of people have now started to add this, we call it trip safe, any sort of cancellation protection. But we want to give them the perceived value that we do that as well if they book direct. It's just going to cost a little bit with ours, where a lot of the OTAs are just doing it for free, probably because they're not paying taxes or anything on the resale items. They can do a lot of that, but we want to give the perception of that cancellation as well. So take a look at the cancellation policy, because that's a barrier. Like that's a legit barrier for bookings. Otherwise, they wouldn't be offering this free cancellation, right? Like make it so easy to say yes, that it takes away all their fear. And your cancellation percentage is probably really low anyways. So if not, we can talk about it because it should be really low. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about activity levels. So one item can have multiple activity levels, and that helps you gauge the guest's expectations and gives the tour guide valuable information as well. Like for our tour guides, I want to know as much information before they actually take the tour. So you can include a section on your booking flow, like a custom field that asks these questions specifically for your guest, and or making sure that your team is asking your guests these questions upon arrival. The same thing goes for, whether it's a walking tour or e-bike rental. If you aren't clearly laying out the details for them, they will either call in to gather that information, or they might even book another experience.
Yeah, and maybe they look at it and they're like, oh, this is for beginners, but they really want an advanced experience. Like build the same item, but make it advanced. Like give them an option to have what they're looking for, and then they'll book just because they get to go faster or do a certain trail or something.
Yeah. So then we have FAQs. And so the questions that I would invite you to ask yourself is like, what questions are you getting when people call in? And what questions would you have if you were to book your own activity, right? Or when you go traveling, what questions are popping up in your head? And making sure that we're clearly listing these on our website as well as within the items. Our goal is to have as many online bookings as we can, so that our sales team can work on outbound calls and focus on getting more memberships, affiliates, and working on booking some of those big corporate groups. And if you're the one answering the phones all the time as well, the goal is to get your time back so that you can be focusing on other areas of the business so that you can grow and generate more revenue.
Awesome. So add-ons for this case example, right? When they go on a tour, you want to have add-ons for multiple reasons. So they can take a sandboard, there's coolers, there's food and drinks, there's merchandise. You can resell other activities that you offer that are maybe a different type. For us, in this example, it's watercraft. But you want to have a lot of add-on options because one, it's going to increase the average booking value of a tour that goes out. And then two, these are really, quick close ideas, right? Like let's say they think the price is a little high, but you have a price guarantee. It's like, well, hey, I'm going to throw in 2 free sandboards for you during the tour. We don't do that for everyone, but we're going to do it because we really want to make sure your family has a good time. It still allows the business to get full price for the actual experience. And something like a sandboard or a cooler is fairly inexpensive. It's like a fairly inexpensive reusable item that we can include that provides the perceived value to push them over to book, right? So there's different ways to use add-ons, and the more you can gather, the more you can hand out, right? Maybe you get a gift card at a restaurant because you have a deal with them and you throw that in, right? Whatever you can throw in that's not as expensive, but shows them that you care about their visit. Because again, this is experience-driven products. We're not focusing on like the machine or anything to do with like our resource. The whole focus is on the guest and the experience, right? Like it has nothing to do with the machine in this case example, because they're looking for the tour, right? The experience. So it depends on the actual product.
James asked really quick, what CRM system have you found is best for the sales team currently using Zoho?
Yeah, the CRM system, I mean, there's so many out there now. There's everything to starter packages, to like full Salesforce type options, right? Our CRM, we combine basically Fair Harbor with Podium, which helps. And the reason we use Podium as the CRM is because they also directly connect with our phones. There's a full history, there's recorded phone calls, there's automated texts. And basically you pay a little bit of a premium for that, but also like it allows our company, well, in this example, it allows Mad Moose, in my opinion, to have no drip, right? Like if we're paying for ads, if we have the organic traffic flowing in, and we have a team answering phone calls, like we don't want anyone to go away because we already paid for them to get there. So a CRM is, I would definitely carefully pick a CRM that allows like for all the tracking methods, right? Like you want to know if this guy's ever called you before, you want to know what's said. Let's say they have a bad experience, we can listen to that phone call and respond to it and see what actually happened and listen to it and say, oh, this is how they got mad. It was something our guests or our employees said, not necessarily like something with the experience. So definitely a lot of value, and we can continue to talk about that too. But CRMs are very important. I think we're moving clearly from a position of like, I can just do this on my own and customers will keep showing up, to no, you've got to be super proactive in the tourism space. Like if you're getting OTA referrals, you've got to capture that info and remarket to them, because we want them to book it through an OTA once, but not ever again, right? Like we want to keep as much revenue in the business. So we've gotten really good at funneling those. So now we're like 80% direct and only 20% OTA. So yeah, we can continue to talk about that too, because it's very, very important. Fees right here, if you're on vacation, like, yeah, you got it. If you're on vacation, think about it as like in your customer shoes. For this example, with it being a private tour, like they don't want to do anything, right? They're showing up, they have a job at home, and when they're on vacation, they're on vacation. I really liked that when I went to Costa Rica. Like that's like their common phrase is like, hey, you're not doing anything, you're on vacation. So add the fees necessary to provide a high-end experience, and people are definitely willing to pay that, whether it's fuel or equipment use and maintenance fees, or maybe you pay a fee to the BLM for use of land. Make sure your fees are accounted for, and people get it, right? It makes sense to pay for fuel if you're going on a ride. There might be other fees that don't make sense and the customer complains about them. If that's the case, get rid of it and add it to like a different fee that makes more sense, like a bulk fee or something. So, okay, almost done. Once you've built your products and once they're designed really, really well, then you go to scale. So once you have your product designed, it's really clear on the resources and everything, then you can push through quite a bit of channels, right? When you go and book a hotel or at an airline, you'll notice that there's a lot of resellers, and they all have massive customer bases that may or may not be applicable to you. So what you want to do is you want to adapt and change that product for the resellers. In this case example, we were selling by machine for the tours. Like you could book by the machine and it includes 4 seats, where a lot of OTAs are selling per person, right? Adults and children. So we adapted our product to sell by person, so it would sell better on the OTAs. So really get your core together. And then once you find sales channels that work, that might need a little tweaking, make that little tweak, have it connect with your ResTech, in our case, Fair Harbor, and then you can just allow those sales to continue to flow in. Perfect.
All right, so we've covered a lot in the last 40 minutes. So thank you guys for staying on and for following us through those slides there. We've created an item checklist here so that you can use as an audit as you are going through and looking at your current product offerings, and then as you build more in the future. Putting in the work allows you to reap the benefits, right? So within Rise, we love to help businesses scale their product line and bring in more revenue. So you can scan this QR code and download the checklist so that you can proactively plan for 2025.
Yeah.
It's weird to say.
Yeah, here we go.
Like that's soon, you guys.
So there's a free checklist for you. We built that out. Obviously, it may look simple, but there's a lot of depth within building out each one of these things. I would say we took off anything that we didn't think was super relevant, and really moving into 2025, like you need to have every single one of these dialed in order to stand out and compete with the kind of content that's going to be out there. Okay. Also, just like Shelby said, there's just a lot of information within this, and each slide we could have dove into a pretty deep conversation. We only do these webinars once a month. And so if you're overwhelmed with like the work that's involved, that it takes to build out an item, or maybe you have like a really established item and you want us to just take an outside look at it, we've spent a lot of time looking at what sells and how you could increase it and take it to the next level. So as being part of the webinar, you can book a free 60-minute call with us. Like, we'd love to chat. We're in the business of reselling tours and attractions. And we work with a lot of companies. So we've seen stuff in different states and different items, and in different activity types. So you can book a call with us if you scan that QR code. And then Shelby's also announcing something that's super cool to help hold business owners accountable, because sometimes we need that. All the time we need that. Yeah.
So Rise and Thrive accountability calls. This is going to be Tuesday morning, 7 a.m. Mountain Time. And for me, like the overall goal with an accountability call or, any sort of these groups is like a lot of my friends or even people that are, do other things outside of tours and attractions, like there's a lot that goes into this, right? And so I think it's super important to have a space where like-minded individuals can come together, ask questions, hold each other accountable, and support one another. So scan that QR code. It'll lead to a Google form that just has a few questions. We're only going to allot 10 spots for that. And this is a free accountability call. And we just want to make sure that it's only going to be an hour, right? So we don't want to take up too much of our time, but we want to make sure that everyone has a chance to go through and ask questions and share comments and all of those things. So
yeah, and I definitely agree with that. I think as a business owner, I think what got me out of the business was like the requirement has to be discipline, right? And the way you enable discipline is you have someone to hold you accountable. So if it makes sense for your business, we partner directly with tour and attraction companies. If you would like us as partners, you can book the 60-minute call and we can see if that makes sense. You can also join. Shelby's only doing 10 spots for this call, so I would highly recommend joining it if you want to take action and get ready for 2025. So yeah, with that said, that pretty much sums it up. Is there any remaining questions that we can answer for you guys? I see here, great, a lot of tips, thanks, you're welcome. Yeah, we love talking about this stuff. This is like what we do all day.
all day.
All day, the emphasis. We stopped charging add-on fees and sell our tours as all-inclusive, which they are. Love it. And Norman, that totally makes sense for, a lot of different customer types, right? You might have a corporate group that comes and they're like, here's my budget. This is what we want. And if you have like a clear product for them, you might display that as all-inclusive. There's no fees, nothing's there, boom, sold. And it just depends on the customer type, right? A lot of our customer types, when it comes to like rentals or self-guided experiences, we can add on those fees and they're totally fine with it and it just flows. And it comes to just analyzing the product, the customer, and making sure that there's no barriers there that doesn't make sense to that type of person. So yeah, good insight.
My question for you guys would be like, what's the biggest takeaway or what's one action item that you plan to go and implement so that I can hold you accountable on the accountability call? Right? Oh, Bria's got a list. Oh, she's got a long list.
Yeah. Awesome,
Okay,
guys.
Matt's got some notes too.
Yeah, we'll definitely send you the recording. We'll get this put together, send this out, and you've got that checklist again that you can download. We'll send that out. Our goal is to provide as many resources as we can. And then, like I said, if you want to take time to deep dive into the business and have us come in and give you an outside perspective, we're open to doing that. We only have so much time available. But we've done the same thing as we've scaled and grown. In the beginning with Mad Moose, it was 6 paddle boards, right? And now, we want to help people get to the multi-million-dollar mark in revenue. Like that's the goal. If we can scale up to $3 to $5 million a year, get you out of the business and really have that churn happen naturally through automation, that's really what we wish to pass on to every single tour and attraction company out there, because it takes a lot of work to build this stuff and it's definitely not easy. And you guys deserve the time back once you get that product selling. You deserve the processes and stuff put in place so you can get that time back to go enjoy what you enjoy doing. So that's a wrap. We'll finish up. And thanks for everyone hopping on.
Yeah, thank you guys.